My brother's girlfriend told my psychotic ex about my pregnancy, and the worst happened. He came after me. My pregnancy was supposed to be private. Just me, my partner, and our families who we trusted. Keyword, trusted, past tense. Because apparently, my brother's girlfriend thought my psychotic ex-boyfriend deserved to know I was carrying a baby. His baby, in her twisted logic, despite the fact that I hadn't seen him in over a year, and the father is very obviously my current partner. Let me back up. 3 years ago, I dated this guy for about 8 months. Things seemed fine at first, the usual honeymoon phase. But then he started getting possessive, then paranoid, then violent. It escalated fast. He started following me, showing up places I'd be, accusing me of cheating with every man I spoke to. The breaking point came when he showed up at my apartment with a gun, convinced I was hiding someone inside. I called the police, got a restraining order, moved apartments, changed my number, blocked him on everything. He was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia after the gun incident, but by then I was long gone from his life. I thought I was safe. I thought I'd never have to think about him again. Then I met my partner 2 years ago. We fell in love, moved in together, and 6 months ago, I got pregnant. We waited until the second trimester to tell our families, being cautious because of my history. My brother and his girlfriend came over for dinner, and we shared the news. Everyone was excited. Hugs all around. My brother's girlfriend seemed especially thrilled, asking questions about due dates and baby names. 24 hours later, my ex-boyfriend texted me from a new number I didn't have blocked. Congratulations on our baby. I have rights as a father. I nearly dropped my phone. My partner and I both knew immediately something was very wrong. There was no way this was a coincidence. No one outside our immediate families knew yet. I called my brother and asked him point blank if he'd told anyone. He swore he hadn't. Then I asked about his girlfriend. There was a long, horrible pause. He said he'd call me back. An hour later, he showed up at my door looking like he'd aged 10 years. His girlfriend had reached out to my ex on social media 3 days after we announced the pregnancy. She'd told him I was pregnant, the due date, that I was doing well, and would probably want to reconnect now that I was starting a family. When my brother confronted her, she didn't even seem to understand why we were upset. I was there for part of that conversation. My brother had called me, and I'd driven over to his apartment. She was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, looking confused more than anything. You gave him my address, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You told him about my pregnancy. I thought he should know, she said, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. He's changed. He really has. We've had coffee a few times, and he's on medication now. He's doing therapy. He's a completely different person. You had coffee with him? My brother's voice cracked. When? How many times? Twice. Maybe 3 times. I don't know. I wasn't keeping count. She turned to me. He talks about you a lot. He regrets what happened. He wants to make amends. He showed up at my door with a gun, I said slowly, each word feeling like I was spitting out poison. He's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He stalked me for 3 years. That was when he wasn't medicated, she countered. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption, especially when a child is involved. You can't just keep a father from his baby because of something that happened years ago when he was sick. My brother stood up. Get out. What? Pack your things and get out of my apartment. Now. She looked genuinely shocked. You're choosing her over me? I was trying to help. I was trying to do the right thing. The right thing? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You put me in danger. You put my baby in danger. You gave a documented stalker information about where I live and work. He deserved to know he's going to be a father. He's not going to be a father, I was shouting now. This isn't his baby. This is my baby, with my partner, who I've been with for 2 years. My ex-boyfriend has nothing to do with this pregnancy except in his own delusional mind, and you fed into that delusion. She stood up, grabbing her purse. You're going to regret this, she said to my brother. Both of you. When that child grows up and finds out you kept her from her real father, she's going to hate you. My brother's jaw was clenched. Get out. After she left, we sat in silence for a long time. Finally, my brother said, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I swear to God, I had no idea. I believed him, but it didn't make any of this better. We filed a police report that same day and updated my old restraining order. The officer was sympathetic but realistic. Unless my ex actually did something, there wasn't much they could do. A single text message wasn't enough for immediate action. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every car outside made me jump. I'd finally felt safe, and now I was right back to looking over my shoulder constantly. The baby shower was supposed to be happy. My mother had planned it for weeks. She'd rented this beautiful garden venue with white arbors covered in climbing roses. 30 people were invited. She'd ordered a 3-tier cake decorated with tiny fondant baby shoes. Everything was perfect, pastel, and delicate. I almost canceled after the ex situation started, but my partner convinced me not to let that man steal any more joy from my life. So we compromised. We hired security, 2 off-duty police officers, friends of my uncle, both aware of the situation. They checked IDs at the entrance against the guest list. No one got in without verification. For the first hour, everything was perfect. My cousin had organized games. Pin the dummy on the baby, guess the baby food flavor. Ridiculous, but fun. I was actually relaxing, sitting in the designated mom chair with its stupid sash that said mommy to be, one hand on my belly. The baby was kicking in response to all the noise and excitement. My mother was laughing with her sisters. My partner was helping set up the gift table. Normal. This was normal. Then I heard it. A voice I recognized even from across the garden, even though I hadn't heard it in over a year. That's my baby. I have a right to be here. The music kept playing, some cheerful pop song, but all conversation died. Heads turned toward the entrance. I felt my whole body go cold. My ex-boyfriend was at the gate, and he hadn't come alone. His mother was with him, and both of his brothers. They were arguing with the security guards, trying to push past them. She can't keep me from my own child. My ex's voice was getting louder, more frantic. I could hear the edge in it, the one I remembered from before, when he'd been off his medication and spiraling. That particular pitch that meant danger. I have rights. I'm the father. One of the security guards, Marcus, had his arm across the entrance. Sir, you need to leave. Now. Don't touch me. You can't keep me from her. She's having my baby. My mother grabbed my arm. Come on, let's get you inside. But I couldn't move. I was frozen, watching as my ex tried to physically push past Marcus. His mother was crying, wailing something about grandparents' rights. One of his brothers had his phone out, recording everything, narrating like he was covering a news event. This is discrimination, the brother was shouting at the camera. They're keeping a father from his unborn child because of mental illness. This is what they do to people like us. This is abuse. The second security guard had his phone to his ear, calling for police backup. My ex broke free for a second, made it about 5 feet into the garden before Marcus tackled him. They went down hard, taking out a table on the way. The cupcake tower my mother had spent hours arranging scattered across the grass. A bowl of pastel mints shattered, baby-themed cookies crushed underfoot. My ex was screaming now, not words, just sounds, raw and animal and terrifying. His brothers were trying to pull Marcus off him. Guests were grabbing their children, moving away from the chaos. Someone's kid was crying. My cousin was on her phone. Everything was chaos and noise and wrong. Please, his mother was begging, hands outstretched to no one in particular. Please, he's sick. He just wants to meet his baby. Please don't hurt him. He's not dangerous. He's just confused. But he was dangerous. I could see it in how hard Marcus was having to work to keep him restrained. I could hear it in those screams. The police arrived within 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. By the time they pulled everyone apart, my ex had a bloody nose from hitting the ground. Marcus had a torn shirt and scratches on his arms. My beautiful baby shower looked like a crime scene. Decorations trampled, food destroyed, guests traumatized. They arrested my ex for violating the restraining order, put him in handcuffs while he screamed about his baby, his rights, discrimination. His family screamed at the officers, at me, at anyone who would listen. His mother looked me dead in the eye as they were putting him in the police car and said, "You're keeping a father from his child. God will judge you for this. You'll see. You'll regret this." That's when the contractions started. Sharp, taking my breath away. I grabbed my partner's arm. Braxton Hicks, the doctor later confirmed, brought on by stress. I was 28 weeks pregnant. My partner rushed me to the hospital where they monitored me for 6 hours before confirming the baby was okay. The next morning, my brother showed up at the hospital, alone. He looked like he hadn't slept. He sat down in the chair next to my bed and pulled out his phone. "I found something," he said. "I went through her phone last night while she was sleeping. I know I shouldn't have, but after everything," he trailed off, hands shaking as he scrolled. "It's worse than we thought." He showed me the messages, months of them. My ex's profile picture showed him looking cleaned up, almost normal. The conversations made my stomach turn. "Your sister is glowing," one message read, with a photo attached. It was from my birthday party 2 months ago. Me, laughing, one hand on my barely visible baby bump. She seems really happy with him, my ex had responded. But she was happy with me too. At first. She talks about you sometimes, my brother's girlfriend had written. That was a lie. I never talked about him. I think she misses what you had. There were dozens more. Updates about my work, my doctor's appointments, even the name we'd tentatively chosen for the baby. She'd sent him a copy of the ultrasound photo with the words, "Can't wait for you to meet your daughter." There's more, my brother said, his voice barely a whisper. He showed me a draft message that had never been sent. My address, my work address, my OB/GYN's office, the hospital where I planned to deliver, my due date, everything. Why didn't she send it? I asked. There's a message to him the next day. She says she wants to wait for the right time, when you're in a better headspace to receive the information responsibly, like she's his therapist or something. My partner, who'd been standing by the window, finally spoke. Did you break up with her? Before I came here, told her to get out. She didn't understand why I was angry. She kept saying she was building a bridge, that she was helping a father connect with his child. My brother put his head in his hands. How did I not see this? How did I date someone this delusional for 4 years? She hid it well, I said. That's what people like that do. He looked up at me. Do you hate me? I wanted to say yes. Part of me did hate him, or at least hated that he'd brought this person into our lives. But looking at him sitting there, destroyed by guilt, I couldn't. No, I said finally, but I need you to understand something. This isn't over. He knows where I live now, or at least he knows she has that information. Even if she doesn't send it, she could slip up, or he could convince her to tell him. We're not safe anymore. What are you going to do? We're leaving. I don't know where yet, but we can't stay here. My brother nodded slowly. Whatever you need. Money, help moving, anything. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. You can't fix this, I said, not unkindly, but you can help us disappear. The hospital social worker came in to talk about safety planning. With my ex's arrest at the baby shower, we could pursue more serious charges. The social worker also recommended I consider relocating temporarily, at least until after the baby was born. My partner squeezed my hand. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. I knew what we were going to do. We were going to run. 3 days after the baby shower incident, my ex's mother created a Facebook page called A Father's Right to Know. It featured photos of my ex holding his nephew, playing with his brother's kids, looking wholesome and paternal. The page description was a masterpiece of manipulation, a heartbreaking story about a man who'd struggled with mental illness, worked hard to get treatment, and was now being kept from his unborn child by a vindictive ex-girlfriend who refused to give him a chance at redemption. The page went viral locally within 48 hours. Over 800 people followed it in the first 2 days. By day 5, it was over 2,000. People I'd never met were calling me cruel, heartless, a child abductor. Someone started a thread about how men with mental illness face discrimination in family court. Another person shared statistics about fathers who'd been wrongfully denied access to their children. My name wasn't on the page, but enough identifying details were there that people who knew me could figure it out. The page posted daily updates. Day 3 of being denied access to my child. Restraining orders are often weaponized against fathers. Mental illness doesn't make you a bad parent. Each post got hundreds of shares, hundreds of comments. People were tagging news stations, saying this was a story that needed to be covered. Father denied rights due to mental health diagnosis. It was framed as civil rights issue, not a safety issue. My ex's family appeared in videos, tearfully discussing how hard he'd worked on his recovery. His mother would sit in what looked like their living room, tissues in hand, talking about how excited he was to be a father, how he'd been preparing for months, reading parenting books, setting up a nursery, how heartbroken he was to be shut out. They never mentioned the gun, never mentioned the 3 years of stalking, never mentioned the diagnosis of schizophrenia or the documented pattern of escalating violence. They never mentioned that the nursery he'd set up was in his mother's house, for a baby that wasn't his, conceived by a woman who'd had no contact with him in over a year. In the comments, people shared their own stories. Men who'd been denied custody, women who'd watched their ex-partners be shut out unfairly. The narrative built on itself, growing stronger with each post, each share, each outraged comment. Someone found my workplace and started calling. At first, it was 1 or 2 calls a day. I need to speak with someone about a very serious case of parental alienation. My boss handled it professionally at first, simply saying I wasn't available. But the calls kept coming, 5 a day, 10, 20. Eventually, she had to implement a new protocol. All calls for me were screened through HR, and most were never passed along. Someone else found my partner's LinkedIn. He started receiving messages, friend requests from accounts with AI-generated profile pictures and generic names. The messages were polite at first. I saw the situation with your girlfriend. I think there might be a misunderstanding. Then they got more aggressive. You're complicit in keeping a father from his child. What you're doing is illegal. There will be consequences. The messages were relentless. Dozens per day, from strangers who believed they understood the situation better than we did. People sent articles about children who'd been kept from their fathers and grew up damaged. They sent statistics about mental health discrimination. They sent thinly veiled threats disguised as concern. One person wrote, "Karma has a way of correcting these situations. You should be very careful." My partner ended up deleting his LinkedIn entirely after his employer received several emails complaining about him, demanding he be fired for supporting parental alienation. His boss was sympathetic, thankfully, told him to take whatever time he needed, that this would blow over. But it was one more piece of our lives that got destroyed. And then, a week after the Facebook page launched, things escalated in a way I never could have predicted. Around 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday, I heard chanting outside our apartment building. At first, I thought it was a protest for something else. Something political, maybe. Then I heard the words, "Fathers matter. Let him see his child." I went to the window and looked down. About 15 people were gathered on the sidewalk in front of our building. They had signs. Actual professionally printed signs. Mental illness isn't a crime. Children need both parents. Stand up for fathers' rights. One of them had a megaphone. A woman in her 50s, someone's mother probably, passionate about the cause. "We're here today to support a father who's being denied access to his child due to mental health discrimination. This is wrong. This is unjust." The crowd chanted with her. Some of them were holding their phones up, recording. One guy had a professional-looking camera set up, live streaming to Facebook. I watched from our third-floor window, hands pressed against my pregnant belly, feeling absolutely surreal. This was my life now. Protesters outside my home because I didn't want my violent stalker ex-boyfriend near my baby. My partner called the police. When they arrived about 20 minutes later, the officers talked to the protesters for a while, then came to our door. "They're on public property," the officer said, looking apologetic. "They're not blocking access to the building. They're not threatening anyone directly. They're exercising their First Amendment rights. There's not much we can do unless they become physically threatening or refuse to disperse after a certain time. How long can they stay? Legally? As long as they want, as long as they follow the rules." The protest lasted 4 hours. Our neighbors came home to signs and chanting. I received texts from people in the building. Some were supportive. "Is everything okay? Do you need anything?" Some were less so. "Can you please handle whatever drama you have going on? This is disturbing the peace." One neighbor left a note on our door suggesting we just talk to the father and work something out, so the building could return to normal. By the time the protesters finally left, I was having contractions again. Not as bad as the baby shower incident, but enough that I had to lie down, breathe through them, wait for them to stop. The stress was literally trying to force my baby out early. That night, we barely slept. Every sound outside made us jump. I kept checking the window, convinced they'd come back. My partner stayed up researching tenants' rights, looking for legal ways to protect us, finding nothing helpful. That night, around 3 in the morning, my partner said what we'd both been thinking. We couldn't stay here anymore. A friend of my partner's family owned a rental property about 2 hours away near the coast. It was furnished, available immediately, and most importantly, our names wouldn't be on any public records. We could pay cash monthly using money we'd been saving for the nursery. We packed up our apartment in 2 days, telling almost no one where we were going. My brother knew, my parents knew, and that was it. The night before we left, I stood in the nursery we'd started setting up. The crib was still in its box. The walls were painted a soft yellow with cloud decals. It was supposed to be perfect. My partner found me crying in the doorway. He held me while I sobbed. I was so angry. Angry at my ex for being sick in a way that made him dangerous. Angry at his family for enabling him. Angry at my brother's girlfriend for her toxic positivity and complete lack of boundaries. We left before sunrise. The rental house was small but clean, right on the water. My new doctor didn't know my history, so I had to explain everything from scratch. She referred me to a high-risk pregnancy specialist because of my stress levels. My brother called every day. He'd reported his girlfriend to the police for her role in all this, and they were investigating possible charges for facilitating stalking. Apparently, she'd vanished, quit her job, moved out of town, wasn't responding to anyone. 3 weeks into our coastal exile, my partner went back to the city for a mandatory work meeting. He'd be gone for 6 hours max. I begged him not to go, but we needed the income. Medical bills were piling up and we were burning through our savings paying for 2 places. "I'll be fine," I told him that morning, trying to sound convincing. "The doors will be locked. No one knows where we are." He kissed my forehead. "Call me if anything feels off. Anything at all." I spent the morning cleaning obsessively, trying to keep my mind occupied. The baby was kicking like crazy, probably feeding off my anxiety. I made lunch but couldn't eat it. Around noon, I was washing dishes when I saw movement through the kitchen window. A car, a dark sedan driving slowly down our street. Too slowly. Our street was a dead end with only 6 houses, and I'd met all the neighbors. This car didn't belong to any of them. It passed our house once, the driver's face hidden behind sun glare on the windshield. My hands were still wet from the dishes, and I felt frozen watching it. The car reached the dead end, paused for a moment, then turned around and came back. This time it stopped. 4 houses down, but with a clear view of our front door. The engine stayed running. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I stepped away from the window, grabbed my phone with shaking hands. Should I call the police? And say what? Someone was parked on a public street? I moved to the living room window, staying back from the curtains, trying to get a better look at the car. I couldn't see the license plate from this angle. Couldn't see how many people were inside. The sun was reflecting off the windshield too brightly. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The car just sat there, engine running. I pulled up my phone to call my partner, then stopped. If I called him, he'd leave his meeting, drive back immediately. We needed this job. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just someone on their phone, someone who'd pulled over to check directions or answer a text. But my gut said otherwise. My gut said run. 15 minutes. 20. I'd moved to the bedroom now, where I could see the car from a different angle. Still couldn't make out any details. Still running. At 23 minutes, my phone buzzed. My partner. "Everything okay? Feeling weird about leaving you?" I started typing a response, hands trembling so badly I had to retype 3 times. "There's a car outside. Don't know who. Been here 20 min." The response was immediate. "Stay inside, locking doors and windows. I'm leaving now." No, wait. But he was already gone. Probably already in his car. I watched the sedan. Still hadn't moved. I went around the house, checking every lock, every window, the back door, the garage. Everything was secure, but I'd never felt less safe. At 28 minutes, the car suddenly pulled away. No warning, no reason I could see. Just smoothly pulled out and drove back down the street, disappearing around the corner. I sank onto the couch, whole body shaking. Maybe it had been nothing. Maybe it was paranoia, my traumatized brain seeing threats everywhere. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe someone had found us. When my partner got home an hour later, I was having contractions. Real ones this time, regular and painful, 5 minutes apart. He took one look at me and grabbed the hospital bag we'd packed weeks ago. "We're going," he said. Now. In the car, between contractions, I tried to explain about the sedan. How long it had sat there. How it had no reason to be in our neighborhood. How I'd felt watched. "We're not coming back here," he said, hands tight on the steering wheel. "Whatever happens with the baby today, we're not coming back to this house. It's not safe anymore." I wanted to argue, to say we couldn't afford to just abandon the place, but another contraction hit and all I could do was breathe through it. At the hospital, they managed to stop the labor after pumping me full of medication. I was 33 weeks pregnant, too early. They kept me overnight for monitoring, hooking me up to machines that tracked every heartbeat, every contraction. "You need to find a way to manage your stress," the doctor said, looking at my chart. "This is the second time you've had stress-induced contractions. If this keeps happening, we might not be able to stop it next time." As if I could just choose not to be terrified. The next day, my brother came to visit. He had news. The police had tracked down his ex-girlfriend 3 states away. When they questioned her, she admitted to being in contact with my ex, but maintained she hadn't done anything wrong. She was facilitating dialogue between 2 parents who needed to communicate. The prosecutor was deciding whether to file charges. "There's something else," my brother said, looking uncomfortable. The detective asked if we'd noticed anyone following us or watching the house. Apparently, my ex hired someone, a private investigator. My blood went cold. The car. What car? I told him about the sedan outside the rental house. How it had sat there for almost half an hour. How it had left right before my contractions started. My brother pulled out his phone and showed me a photo the detective had sent him. A dark blue sedan. Same make and model I'd seen. They got him on camera near your old apartment building too, my brother said. The detective thinks he was trying to figure out where you'd gone. Your ex hired him 3 weeks ago, gave him all kinds of information about you. The PI is being charged now too. So it hadn't been paranoia. Someone had found us. Someone had been watching. We can't go back to that house, I said. I know. I already called the landlord and explained. He's letting you out of the lease, considering the circumstances. Where are we supposed to go? My brother was quiet for a moment. I have some money saved. For a ring, actually. Was going to propose to her next month. He laughed bitterly. Guess I won't be needing that anymore. It's yours. Enough for first and last month somewhere new, somewhere further away. My brother asked me something then that I'll never forget. Do you think I should have seen it? He said, staring at his hands. Were there signs I missed? Was she always like this and I just didn't want to see it? I thought about it for a long time. Thought about my own ex, how charming he'd been at first, how the red flags had seemed so small, so easy to explain away. I don't think you could have known, I finally said. My ex was charming too in the beginning. He seemed caring, attentive. The possessiveness started small, wanting to know where I was, who I was with. I told myself it meant he cared. By the time I realized it was control, I was already in too deep. But there had to be something, some sign that she was capable of this. Maybe, I admitted. Or maybe she really did think she was helping. Some people's version of compassion is so twisted up with their own need to fix things that they can't see the harm they're causing. She probably genuinely believed she was doing the right thing. That doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't. But it might explain it. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't quite believe me. He'd carry that guilt for a long time, maybe forever. That's what people like his ex-girlfriend don't understand. Their help doesn't just damage the primary victim. It ripples out, destroying trust, creating wounds that take years to heal. Around week 35 of my pregnancy, something changed. The Facebook page suddenly went dark. All the posts were deleted. The page itself disappeared. My lawyer called with news. My ex had been arrested again. He'd shown up at his brother's house in the middle of the night, rambling about aliens and government conspiracies. When his brother tried to calm him down, my ex attacked him. During the arrest, it became clear he was having a major psychotic episode. He'd stopped taking his medication weeks ago. He was committed to a psychiatric facility for mandatory evaluation. The doctor said he was a danger to himself and others. The family took down the Facebook page immediately once they realized how sick he actually was. The protests stopped after news of his psychiatric hospitalization spread. The mandatory psychiatric hold was for 30 days minimum, possibly longer. The prosecutor used this incident to strengthen the stalking charges. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. We started actually preparing for the baby. My partner assembled the travel crib. We washed all the tiny clothes my mother had brought. We packed a hospital bag. I was 37 weeks along when my water broke at 2 a.m. I woke up to wetness and a sharp cramp, and for a moment I thought I just peed myself. Then another cramp hit, stronger, and I knew. It's time, I said, shaking my partner awake. He sat up immediately, that instant alertness people talk about. Are you sure? My water just broke. I'm sure. We'd practiced this. Had the hospital bag packed for weeks. Had a route planned. Had backup routes in case of traffic. What we hadn't planned for was the fear that gripped me as soon as we got in the car. What if someone followed us? I said, watching every car behind us. What if his family is watching the hospital? They're not, my partner said, but he checked the rearview mirror 3 times in as many blocks. The contractions started in earnest about 10 minutes into the drive. I timed them on my phone, trying to breathe through them like we'd learned in the classes. 5 minutes apart, 4, 3.5. At the hospital, we didn't go through the main entrance like normal people. We'd arranged to come in through the emergency department entrance, where security could escort us directly to labor and delivery without passing through public areas. My lawyer had set it all up weeks ago. I was registered under a fake name, Jennifer Morrison, not me, just someone else having a baby. The labor was long, 22 hours of contractions and breathing exercises and pain that made me understand why women throughout history have cursed childbirth. My partner held my hand through all of it, let me squeeze until I thought I might break his fingers. He didn't complain once. The nurses were kind but busy. rotating through different shifts. Each time a new nurse came in, my partner would quietly remind them about the security situation. No information to be given out. No visitors unless we approved them by name. Extra security posted outside our room. At hour 18, I started to panic. Not about the labor, about everything else. What if someone had followed us? What if my ex's family was in the building right now, searching floor by floor? What if his brother, the one who'd tried to access hospital records before, was out there somewhere with a fake ID and a story? I can't do this, I told my partner during one particularly brutal contraction. I can't bring her into this. She's not going to be safe. She will be, he said firmly. She has us. She has security. She has a whole system designed to protect her. She's going to be okay. At hour 22, they said it was time to push. The doctor was a woman I'd only met once before, during a consultation. She'd been briefed on our situation. The whole team had. Even now, during delivery, there was a security guard outside our door. 3 pushes. That's all it took. 3 pushes, and suddenly there was crying. Not my crying, though I was doing that too. My daughter's crying. Loud and indignant and perfect. They placed her on my chest. This tiny, screaming, perfect human being. She had my nose and my partner's eyes and her own personality already evident in how forcefully she was protesting her entrance into the world. We'd chosen her name months ago, before everything went to hell. Iris. It meant rainbow, and after the storm we'd endured, it felt right. "Hi, Iris," I whispered, and she stopped crying for just a second, like she recognized my voice. Then she started up again, louder. My partner cut the cord, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect," he kept saying. "She's so perfect." For the first few hours, I let myself forget everything else. I just held her, learned how to nurse her, marveled at her tiny fingers. My partner took photos, unable to stop smiling. But reality crept back in. The nurses came to check on us, and I found myself studying their faces, wondering if any had been approached by my ex's family. Every footstep in the hallway made me jump. On our last night in the hospital, around 10 p.m., a nurse came in looking worried. "There was an incident downstairs," she said quietly. "A man in the lobby asking about recent births. Security escorted him out, but he tried to access patient records on an unmanned computer before they caught him. They're filing a police report." What did he look like? My voice sounded strange, distant. Tall, dark hair, mid-30s. Does that sound familiar? My ex's younger brother. The one who'd been recording at the baby shower. The hospital filed charges for attempted identity theft and violating the restraining order. By the time police arrived, he'd fled, but a warrant was issued. My lawyer said it strengthened our case significantly. "He found us," I said to my partner after the nurse left. "They know she's born. But they didn't get to us. Security worked. We were discharged through a service entrance early the next morning. Back at the rental house with a newborn, I was responsible for this tiny human's safety while we were still in danger. 2 weeks later, the psychiatric facility called. My ex had been transferred to a long-term treatment center. His psychosis had worsened to where doctors doubted he'd ever live independently again. My brother's ex-girlfriend pled guilty to facilitating stalking and got 2 years probation. She moved to another state. My brother never heard from her again. When Iris was 2 months old, my partner came home from work looking exhausted. He'd been job hunting for weeks while working full-time, and it was wearing on him. "I got an offer," he said, sitting down heavily on the couch. "Pacific Northwest. Good salary. They want me in a month." A month? I was holding Iris, who was fussing. "That's not enough time." "I know." He rubbed his face. "But it's the best offer we've had. And we can't stay here, not with the PI finding us. We're not safe. We're not safe anywhere," I said, and I heard the bitterness in my own voice. "So what do you want to do?" There was an edge to his voice I rarely heard. "Stay here and wait for them to find us again? Keep looking for jobs that might never come? We're drowning and someone's thrown us a life raft." "I know." Iris started crying harder. I don't know if I can do this. Pack everything, sell the apartment, move 3,000 miles with a 2-month-old baby." He was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I'm scared too. This is terrifying, but staying is worse." "What about money?" "Moving costs, deposits, selling the apartment below market because we need it gone fast." "My parents offered to help," he said carefully. He knew I hated asking for money. "They have equity in their house. They could take out a loan. I can't ask them to do that." "You're not asking. They're offering. They want us safe." He reached over and took my hand. "Look, I'm exhausted. I'm terrified. I snapped at my boss yesterday because I haven't slept more than 4 hours straight in months, but we have to do this. For her. He was right. I hated that he was right. Hated that we had to uproot everything again, but he was right. Okay, I said finally. Let's do it. In the end, we accepted help from both sets of parents. $5,000 from his, $3,000 from mine, plus the money my brother had been saving for an engagement ring. It was barely enough, but it had to be. The move itself was chaos. We sold our apartment to the first buyer, $20,000 below value. We packed everything into a moving truck and drove 3,000 miles with a 2-month-old. It took 5 days, stopping every few hours to nurse and change diapers, sleeping in cheap motels. We arrived exhausted. The apartment was smaller than advertised, but it was ours and anonymous. A big city where we were just another young family among millions. The new city was bigger than I was used to, which helped. Easier to disappear. We found a pediatrician for Iris, and I found a therapist who specialized in trauma. Therapy wasn't magic, but it helped. My therapist taught me grounding techniques for panic attacks. We talked about the complicated grief of losing someone to mental illness even when that person had hurt you. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, she said. You can understand why someone did what they did without excusing it or letting them back into your life. We talked about my brother's ex-girlfriend too, about people who cause harm while believing they're helping. Compassion without boundaries enables abuse, my therapist said. The hardest part was admitting I loved Iris completely, but sometimes resented what her existence had cost me. The safety I'd fought for, shattered overnight. That's normal, my therapist assured me. You can love your child and still grieve the pregnancy you deserved. Those feelings don't make you a bad mother. The restraining order against my ex was made permanent. His family's attempts to get him released were repeatedly denied. My brother's ex finished her probation and disappeared from our lives completely. Iris was growing, oblivious to the chaos that had surrounded her birth. She smiled at 6 weeks, this huge, gummy grin that made everything feel worth it. She laughed at 8 weeks, a real belly laugh when my partner made faces at her. At 3 months, she started reaching for toys, her little hands opening and closing with determination. My mother came to visit when Iris was 4 months old. She stayed for a week, helping with the baby and cooking meals and telling me I was doing a good job. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that. Before she left, she said something that stuck with me. Trauma doesn't define us, but it does change us, she said, holding Iris while I folded laundry. You don't have to be the person you were before. You can be someone new, someone stronger. I thought about that a lot in the months that followed. I'd always thought of myself as optimistic, trusting. Now I was careful, suspicious, hypervigilant. I'd lost some lightness I used to carry, but I'd gained resilience too, a fierce protectiveness, clarity about what mattered most. On Iris's first birthday, we had a small party at our new house. Just us, my parents, my brother, a few friends we'd made in the new city. Nothing fancy, just cake and balloons and watching a 1-year-old demolish a cupcake with her hands. My mother had made the cake herself, a simple vanilla with strawberry frosting. Iris's favorite color, even at 1, seemed to be pink. She'd reach for anything pink in stores, would stare at pink flowers like they held the secrets of the universe. We sang Happy Birthday, and Iris looked confused by all the attention, her little face smeared with frosting. My partner held up his phone, recording everything, and I had this moment of panic. What if someone saw the video? What if somehow, through some impossible chain of events, it made its way back to people who were looking for us? But then I looked around at the people in our living room, my parents who'd helped us escape, my brother who'd stood by us even after his world fell apart, our new friends who knew us only as the young couple from across the country with the cute baby, nothing about our history. This was our village now. Small, carefully constructed, but real. After the party, after my parents had driven back to their hotel and my brother had caught his flight home, after our friends had left with their own kids, I found myself in Iris's room. She was asleep in her crib, exhausted from all the excitement, one hand curled near her face. My partner came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. We did it, he said softly. 1 year. 1 year since she was born. 1 year since we'd been hiding and running and terrified. 1 year of slowly, painfully rebuilding our lives. That night, after everyone had left and Iris was asleep, my partner and I sat on the couch looking at photos from the party. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Having her when we did, bringing her into all this chaos? I told him the truth. Yes and no. I regret the timing, the circumstances, the pain we all endured. But I don't regret Iris. She's the best thing in my life, even though her arrival coincided with the worst. We talked about the future, about whether we'd have more kids someday. Though the thought of being pregnant again, of being that vulnerable again, made my chest tight. About whether we'd tell Iris the full story when she was older. About whether my ex would ever get better, or if we'd be looking over our shoulders for the rest of our lives. I got an email from my lawyer today, I said. The restraining order is permanent now. He's been deemed permanently dangerous. They don't think he'll ever be stable enough to live outside a facility. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Relieved, I guess. And sad. Is that weird? To feel sad for someone who terrorized you? No, he said. I don't think so. You're allowed to have complicated feelings about complicated things. We sat in silence for a while, his arm around my shoulders, my head on his chest. You know what I realized today? I said. Watching her smash that cake, surrounded by people who love her. She's going to be okay. Whatever happens, whatever we have to deal with in the future, she's going to be okay. Because she has us. And we're not perfect, and we're still kind of a mess. But we love her. That's got to count for something. It counts for everything, he said. I still get scared sometimes. A notification makes my heart race. I wake up checking locks, but the fear isn't as overwhelming as it used to be. Iris is learning to walk now, taking wobbly steps between furniture. She doesn't know yet that the world can be scary. She will someday. But for now, she's just a baby learning to trust that we'll catch her when she falls. My brother is doing better. He's seeing someone new, taking it slow. Our relationship is different now, more careful, but we're healing. The truth is, I don't know how this story ends. I don't know if we'll ever feel completely safe. What I do know is this. We survived. My daughter is healthy. My relationship with my partner is stronger. My family rallied when we needed them. I discovered strength I didn't know I had. Someday, when Iris is older and asks about the beginning of her story, I'll tell her the truth. I'll teach her that danger doesn't have to define you. That love is about consistency and showing up through hard things. I'll tell her about the people who protected us. And I'll tell her that despite everything, I'd do it all again. Every scary moment, every sleepless night, every mile we ran. Because at the end of it all, we got her. For now, though, she's just a toddler taking her first steps. And I'm just a mother watching her. Heart full of love and fear and hope all tangled together. We're okay. Not perfect, not healed, not entirely safe, but okay. And today, that's enough.